So today I want to talk about a couple things. Primarily the idea of being vulnerable and and having humility and why we need each other as men. A lot of my life growing up, and it's probably similar to yours, was very much I don't need other people, I don't need other men, and a lot of it for me came from my own father issues. So my dad was a hard man. He grew up during the Depression. He was much older than my mom when he had me, and this led to him kind of always having that feeling of like, I'm gonna figure this shit out on my own. I don't need anybody else. The only one I can trust is me. And so that kind of came into me, and he died when I was 15 years old. And when he died, it kind of went from this like where you're used to having a father figure, you're used to having a person in your life who was your protection, your covering, to all of a sudden you're like an orphan. You're a child having to do this on your own. And so that wound taught me that the best way forward was me to rely on me and only me. So when you have that kind of a personality, especially with being a driven, entrepreneurial type or a business owner type or high achiever type, I was very, just like, I'm going to figure it out on my own. Even like when I would get something, like a VCR back in the day or something, like, I'm not going to read the instructions. I'm going to figure this shit out on my own. Like, who needs instructions, right? I'm going to feel like a man. I'm going to do this on my own. And so when that became my habit and that became my identity and who I was, then when I got into a marriage, guess what? I didn't need a wife. I didn't need, a woman telling me what to do. I didn't need her. I didn't need to, have her do anything for me. Like, I was going to figure stuff out on my own. And that had a lot to do with shame, right? Is because we think as men that there's no reason to be vulnerable. There's no reason to open ourselves up, because why? We suck at emotions. Like, we absolutely suck at dealing with emotions, and we suck at letting other people in. There's something in the male DNA, gene, whatever you want to call it, that basically says, hey, if a guy can figure it out on his own, man, he's a real man. I mean, you think about every success story that you read about, like in Entrepreneur Magazine or Wall Street Journal or books or movies that are made. It's always about the guy who kind of figured it out on his own, and we downplay the help he got along the way. You say, well, it doesn't matter what he did, but we downplay the help he got along the way because there's something that's like more inspiring. There's something that's just very like manly about a guy who doesn't need other men, but he's just going to go out and do it on his own. That's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous thinking. And the reason for that is because that when we think that we don't need anybody else, when we're in such a place of pride and arrogance, then what happens is pride comes before the fall, okay? And many of you are in this group now because of you've been humbled, if you will, and your wife has left, she's cheating, she said, I don't love you, right? That's the only reason you're in this group right now. It's not for any other reason other than to figure this thing out, to figure out, what do I do? Do I get her back? Do I not want her back? All of these things that you're going through. The unfortunate downside is that you're trying to take what you've developed over the years, which is, I can figure it out on my own. I fix my own cars. I change my own oil. I mow my own grass. I do all these things. You're trying to take that into this season in which you are in. And many of you are going to lose your wives. You're going to lose your wives, and you're going to lose yourself. And you're going to go through turmoil and trouble that you really don't have to go through because you're trying to do this shit on your own. Look, it's like if you ever, if you have kids and, I'm trying to think of a time this happened, but like, I remember when my kids were younger and, it's like you're trying to cook a meal or something and, they watch you and they think, oh, okay, well, I can do that. And so the next time you're out of the kitchen or something, they go in there and they try to like put all this stuff together and they make some weird concoction. I don't know if that's happened to anybody, but it's like, like maybe peanut butter and jelly on rice or some weird concoction, right? And that's what happens is because like we think we can figure it out. We don't need anybody's help. We're the chef. We're the master of our domain. We don't need anybody. And so what we'll do is we'll look for validation, right? So we'll come into a group like this, or we'll get on phone calls and we'll cry our eyes out. We'll talk about how bad our life is and how we need help and all these things. But really what we're looking for is validation, not transformation. So validation is essentially the idea that I'm valid in my feelings, that what I feel is real, and it's okay what I feel. Look, validation is necessary. It's needed for every single man. But validation does not give you transformation. That's why a lot of guys go, I want to be validated in my feelings, and then just give me information. Just tell me what I need to know, and I'll do it, and I'll go figure it out, and it'll be fine. Guys, that is not working. For the majority of you, that's not working. The process I had to go through, both with my wife cheating and all these things, and the information did not help me. The information gave me some aspect of clarity, gave me some wisdom, but the transformation, the man I had to become to attract her back, is what you have to work on. So it's not enough for you to sit here and go, well, I've now been validated in my feelings. I now have some sort of aspect of reality. I've cried my eyes out on a call, or I've talked to my friends, or I'm in the group and I'm talking about what's going on and I'm getting validated in my feelings, but I'm not being transformed into the man I need to become because I'm not willing to get help. But look, the hardest thing for I think most people to realize is that they think that just because a professional or somebody that does what they do is doing it just for money or just for whatever. Look, I don't care if any of you don't sign up because it's not for me, it's for you. Yes, there's a financial compensation part of it. But at the end of the day, I want to work with guys who are willing to put in the investment, put in the work, and get the healing and transformation. That's what's happening to the clients that do sign up. Like, one call sometimes, that first call can even break through a bunch of shit that they haven't even figured out for years. And suddenly they're on a path and they're doing the things that need to be done. Why? Because they're not doing it on their own anymore. They're actually being accountable to someone. They're actually doing what they say they're going to do. Most of us were in this situation. Why? Because we didn't do what we said we were going to do, and the wife saw that. We weren't leaders. We weren't men. We didn't step up. So what did they do? They stepped out. Now, that's on them. They make that decision. That's on them, right? They fucked up, not you. But you still had a part to play. You still have to look at you and own your shit. What I say it all the time. It's one of the biggest things that we drive home with our clients is you have to own you, not her. You can't control what she does, whether she comes home, whether she stays out. If she's in your bed, not in your bed, you can create boundaries. You can put things in place that protect yourself, but you can't control her. Here's the thing, guys, is that vulnerability is one of the sexiest things to women. It is. Because women want to know that you aren't just some strong, rah-rah leader, but that you're also a man of heart, that you're also a man who's able to be vulnerable. Now, many of you in your situations right now, I'm not going to tell you to go and be all vulnerable with her and cry and share all these feelings with her, right? Especially if she's walked away from the marriage. But part of the reason she walked away from the marriage is because there was a lack of emotional connection. Because we were not told how to do this. Our fathers did not teach us how to emotionally connect with a woman. We connect sexually. We connect visually. We connect physically. But emotional connection scares the shit out of most of us because we're not in tune with that. And then those that are more emotional tend to almost be like babies about it. Like we get so emotional that we become controlling in different ways. We become manipulative. We become passive aggressive. And all of those dysfunctional ways that we relate to our wives. But guys, I'm telling you, if you can learn to be vulnerable with other men and not just look for validation, but look for transformation, your wife is going to see that. Your wife is totally going to see that. One of my clients yesterday, we were on a call and we were talking about a strategy for him because his wife wants to see change. And he brought up an issue of change that something in him that she really didn't like. And so we created a strategy for how to do the change and not tell her, but that she would still find out. Okay? There's ways of doing these things to show her change without you actually having to brag about the change. That's what we want. That's what we empower men to do here. And it's not to trick them. It's not a hack. It's not like some sort of psychological weird thing. It's literally like, we're going to change, but we're going to do it in such a way that she's going to see it. Now, whether or not that affects her and makes her come back, I don't know. But if it comes from the heart and it's authentic and you're like, yeah, man, I need to change this about me. This has to happen. This has got to be changed. And you're in agreement with that and alignment with that. I'm going to help you come up with a strategy to fix that. And not only that, but we're going to look at it in such a way to go, okay, if you're trying to rescue your marriage, we need to be doing things that she's going to see and that she's going to see change without you bragging about it. But guys, that doesn't happen on your own. Yeah, great. You can come up with some ideas. Yeah, great. You can do some things. You can, lean into your own ideas and your own character and morality and all those things. But look, at the end of the day, and I was just talking to a guy about this earlier, where you're at right now wasn't a result of you working with someone else. Where you're at right now is a result of you working on your own. You got yourself here, not somebody else. So if you got yourself here, what makes you think you're going to get you to where you want to go by yourself? And I'm not saying that as if you're dumb. I'm not saying it as if you because you need help, you're some weakling or something. Look, we're all weak. We're all flesh beings. We all have issues. We all have things about us that we don't like, right? But just because you ask for help doesn't mean you're a bad guy. It doesn't mean you're less of a man. In my eyes, it makes you more of a man. To be humble, that's leadership. To raise your hand and say, I need help. That's why one of the first things in Alcoholics Anonymous or any of the AA type groups is you recognize that you have a problem. You have to recognize you have a problem, and then you go get help. That's why those groups are so flourishing, is because you're put in a situation where you have to rely on other people. And most men suck at relying on other people. Guys, don't be like that. Whether you can afford to be in a program or not, doesn't matter. Don't sit here and just like watch from the sidelines and not engage with other men. Call each other up to accountability. Like, I don't want this group to be a bunch of pansies and weird shit that happens. Like, I'm in some other groups and like people are like bragging about weird stuff that isn't actually moving the needle. Like, great, your wife came home, but now what? Why did she come home? What boundaries did you set up? How are you moving forward as a man? Right? She says she wants to work on things. Great. That's awesome. But what are you doing to move forward as a man? How are you making changes? How are you growing? Those are the important things that you've got to focus on. So it comes back to this. You can't do this on your own. You can't. I couldn't do it on my own. I had to get help. I had to get therapy. I had to get a coach. I had to go through the shit. I had to go through hell to get to the other side. And it's up to you if if you think you are worth it, then you need to lay into this group. You need to get on a call with us, and we need to talk about what that looks like. And even if you go, man, I'm not ready, that's fine. Start the process now. That's why we have this group of free resources, free material for you to lock into, to get on and watch these live videos, to ask questions. I'm in the group all the time. Ask questions. Talk about what's going on. This is a free resource for you. Don't waste it. Don't waste it sitting on the sidelines with your hands under your ass going, I don't know what to do. She doesn't love me. She loves me. She's back and forth. All this shit that you're going through. Don't do that to yourself, guys. So look, got questions? Post them in the group. If you want to get on a call, the link is in the group somewhere, and myself or Andrew will take that call and we'll chat with you. Look, if we don't think you're a fit, we're going to tell you, because I don't need you coming in the program and waste my time if you're not ready, right? So there's things that you got to do to get ready. And that is, you do the work. You start looking at yourself right now. You start looking in the mirror. You start asking yourself the hard questions. How did I get here? What were the things I was doing that led me to this place? How am I now working on me? Regardless of what my wife does. As painful as that is, it fucking sucks when you find out the things that your wife has been up to, or the fact that she doesn't love you anymore, that she's walked out, all those things. It sucks, and it hurts like hell. But that doesn't mean you have to sit there and go paralyzed because you're not going to do anything. That is not a leader, gentlemen. That is a little boy. And I'm calling you up out of being a little boy. I'm calling you into manhood and saying you have what it takes if you engage with the process. Matt, you got a question here. So I have papers to file a divorce. Do I file because she wants it? Or I say, no, I want to work it out? Matt, that's a great question. So here's how I look at that. Okay, the framework around that question is, do I want a divorce? Meaning Matt, right? Do I want a divorce? And, if you want a divorce, then you file for divorce. If you don't want a divorce, but she's saying she wants it, why would you file? Like, why does that make sense? In my situation, that was the exact thing that happened, where she said she wanted a divorce and I didn't, so I wasn't going to file for divorce. She went to an attorney. She never got papers drawn up. She didn't go that route. It was because I created a boundary. So you have to learn how to create boundaries around these things to go. But that's where the values thing comes from. When we work with you, we help you figure out what you actually want. And once you've clarified what you want and what you want to do and what you're willing to go to, right? Because we have to create the boundary of how far does that line? Like, this was the boundary line and she's crossed that line. Now we get a divorce, or now I'm willing to file for divorce, right? Those are the things that you've got to think about.